All right, Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahushua, Ba'ashem, Rakah Kodash. I want to give double honors to my apostles and elders, great millstone, who teach very well, who I learned this truth from, and salutation out there to the hopeful elect, who continue to push this word in our true faith and sincerity. And also, Shalom to all the men, women, and children who sincerely believe upon the words of Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahushua. And today, man, just basically again and touching on the destruction of Babylon, man. And that destruction was going to come by your own kind. You know, for lack of better words, the Lord is doing a major thing upon the planet Earth. He's making Satan fight against Satan. You know, and just like World War I and World War II, it's going to get to a point when all these different countries is going to have to pick sides. You know, whether you're going to side with the U.S. and the beast system or you're going to side with the BRICS nation, you know. But at the end of the day, Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushua is really setting up these devils to ultimately take out each other. Before I get this Revelation 17, let's start right here in the book of Isaiah 19. And I'm gonna start at verse I'm gonna start at verse 2. It says, "And I will set the Egyptians against the Egyptians, and they shall fight everyone against his neighbor, against his brother, and everyone against his neighbor, city against city, and kingdom against kingdom." Now, the reason why I pulled this out, because yesterday, I think this actually happened yesterday, France threatened the U.S., man. And France and the U.S., even though you can go back into the French Revolutionary War and things like that, but at the same time, you know, for the past couple of years, man, these guys have been all buddy-buddy. But that buddy spirit is waning away, and the reason why, because this kingdom is what? Declining. You know, and all these nations can see it, even themselves. Let's get this real quick. As of January 2026, France, alongside with other European allies, have strongly warned the U.S. against any forced takeover over Greenland, calling Donald Trump threats unacceptable and intimidation. France and partners have set troops for a renaissance. It's like a reconnaissance mission in a move to counter U.S. pressure on Danish territory. Now, we already know they're trying to work out a deal, but ultimately, this is a big sign to show that this kingdom is partly strong, partly weak, and they're not connecting together, and ultimately, they're not strong. You know, and that's the fulfillment of Daniel, the second. It's like Daniel, the second chapter. You know, you go down into the 10 toes with miry clay mixed with iron. Some partly strong, some weak. But ultimately, they're not connecting, man. They're not whole, and it's fragile, you know? Let's go ahead and get the scriptures, man. Let's go to Daniel, the second chapter. This is the book of Daniel 2. And I'm going to start at verse 20, and I'm going to jump down. This is the book of Daniel 2. And I'm going to start at verse 19 real quick. It says, "Then was the secret revealed unto Daniel in the night vision. Then Daniel blessed the power of heaven." In the spirit, the reason why Daniel was praising the Lord, because he's the one that's controlling the events that's happening upon the planet Earth. Read this real quick. It says, "Then was the secret revealed unto Daniel in a night vision. Then Daniel blessed the power of heaven. Daniel answered and said, Blessed be the name of the Lord, Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushua, forever and ever, for wisdom and might are his." Yes, because it's the Lord who chooses who's finna rule, man. And ultimately, it's finna be the nation of Israel. You know, the ones that you never thought of. But let's continue on. It says, "And he changes the times and the seasons. He removeth kings and setteth up kings. He giveth wisdom unto the wise and knowledge to them that know understanding." And that's the reason why the Lord is giving us wisdom, knowledge, and understanding right now. You know, this is what pleases Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushua, the foolishness of preaching. The Lord loveth none but them that dwell with wisdom. And that wisdom is what? The wisdom of the scriptures, not that left-hand wisdom that Esau have been messing with for so long. Not knowing that left-handed energy or that left-handed wisdom was ultimately going to lead into your downfall, you know? But let's go ahead and jump down. Jump down a little bit more. Let's jump down to verse 40. Yep, this is the book of Daniel 2. And I'm going to start at verse 40. Let's start at verse Yeah, let's start at verse 41. It says, and whereas thou sawest the feet and the toes, part of polished clay and part of iron, and that's the spirit that Esau's in. You know, part of polished clay and part of iron, because once you go into NATO and the EU, that's the representation. A lot of these countries, they're weak and they got money. Some don't got money at all. Some got a military but no funds. Some got funds but no military. And ultimately, it's just a shit fest with the EU and NATO nations. And these other people have just realized it. Let's continue on. It says, the kingdom shall be divided, but there shall be in the strength of iron, for as much as thou sawest the iron mixed with miry clay. And that's why Trump, he's threatening the military. You know, if push come to shove, you know what this guy he's going to do? He's going to bring forth the sword. That's his whole MO that he's been doing ever since the Reubenites and the Native Americans, man. It's nothing new. Let's continue on. As the toes of the feet were part of iron and part of clay, so shall the kingdom be partly strong and partly broken. And this is a perfect example with that Danish Denmark. Now friends gotta bag up Denmark while America, we all supposed to be together, but you picking on Denmark and I gotta protect them. Really, it's just a shit fest, man. But it's a key sign to show that this kingdom is rolling down the drain. Let's continue on. It says, and as thou sawest the iron mixed with miry clay, they shall mingle themselves with the seed of men, but they shall not cleave one to another, even as iron is not mixed with clay. So your kingdom is not whole, it's fragile, man. You know? By the sleight of hand, this place can fall at any second. Continuing on, it says, in the days of these kings shall the power of heaven set up a kingdom which shall never be destroyed. So why in the midst of this kingdom going down, the kingdom that's being raised up will ultimately be an everlasting rulership. And this is why Esau is coming to a desperate mindset, because he know what's ahead of him is greater than what he can bear. Continuing on though. It says, and the kingdom shall not be left to other people, but it shall break in pieces and consume all these kingdoms, and it shall stand forever. And that's really going to be what? The kingdom of heaven. But again, before the kingdom of heaven must come, this current kingdom that we're living in must be taken down. You know, and how it be taken down? By your own allies. Let's go ahead and get another one. Let's go to Revelations 17. And I'm going to start at verse 1. And there came one of the seven angels, which had the seven vials, and talked with me, saying, come hither, and I will show thee the judgment of the great whore that sitteth upon many waters. Now that great whore is America, man. And a part of sitting upon many waters, you have your different military bases everywhere. This nigga actually have a military base in Greenland. He have a military base in China, a U.S. embassy. Why is not no U.S. embassy, why is not no Chinese embassy or, Iran embassy over here, a Mexican embassy over here? And the reason why, because ultimately these countries don't have full control. Esau, Edom, which is the rulers of Babylon the Great, they fulfill what? Job 9:24, the earth is given into the hand of the wicked. And just because the leader there might look like an Indian, and he might be, 9 times out of 10, he could be an Amalekite, but he might be an Indian. But guess what? At the end of the day, he still answers into who? The elites, the higher ups. And if you don't listen to him, then that military will come in. Going back into that iron. Continuing on though, I'm gonna put that iron on you. And that's what made all these nations fear. But now it's the time when your own people hate you. And that's why the scripture said, he that is evil to himself, to whom shall he be good? Denmark ain't do nothing to you, and you finna rob them. Let's go ahead and continue on. It says, with whom the kings of the earth have committed fornication, and the inhabitants of the earth have been made drunk with the wine of fornication. And a part of you being drunk is you not having your faculty, man. There was one point that people thought America was the Lord's, America was the Lord's will, but some people thought that America was the kingdom of heaven. Especially how the way they explained it in the movies in the 2000s. They push it forth like this was the best place ever. But as you continue to investigate this place any further, you can see that this place is one ton and ultimately is on its way out. And again, these nations are realizing who the devil is. Continuing on though. I'm gonna jump down. Matter of fact, let's continue on. It says, so he carried me away in the spirit into the wilderness, and I saw a woman sit upon a scarlet colored beast, full of the names of blasphemy, having 7 heads and 10 horns. Now those 7 heads, they can represent that represents the Roman Empire, the French Empire, the Spanish Empire, Germany Major, Germany Minor, the Romans, and the Greeks. Those are the 7 major empires that Esau ruled. And those 10 horns is ultimately NATO in the EU. You know, and Denmark is a part of NATO, man. You know, as far as Spain, Britain, even though they got Spain and Portugal, they come in one, and they got Britain and Ireland, they really come as one. Because even though they had those 12 stars, 2 of those stars was of another. You know, Portugal is in Spain, and the UK and Britain, they work together. I mean, the UK and Ireland, they right together. They one state. But at the same time, it just shows you how biblical prophecy is being established right now. Because as these 10 horns is being, it's like as these 10 horns is ruling the planet Earth, for lack of better words, we can see that miry clay amongst these 10 horns. We can see that Denmark is clay, and now friends have to back them up, man. Let's go ahead and continue on. It says, and the woman was arrayed in purple and scarlet color, and decked with gold and precious stones and pearls. Yes, they was looking good on the outside looking in, and that's how horror is, man. You know, continuing on though. It says, having a golden cup in her hand full of abominations and the filthiness of her fornication. Yes, man. So again, full of abominations, the filthiness of her fornication. That's the way of life that Babylon pushed, the LGBTQ, even the food. There's a lot of food such as red 40, yellow 10. You know, they're not even real ingredients. They just the name of colors that's banned in different states. I mean, not banned in different states, but banned in different countries, man. The food that they feed the U.S. is not the same food that get pushed forth throughout the whole world, man. And it just shows you what these people think is you. You know, you guys are useless eaters, so you get the less food. You know, the less nutritious food. I'll say that. You know, but again, let's go and continue on. And upon her forehead was the name written, Mystery, Babylon the Great, the mother of harlots, and the abominations upon, it's like in the abominations of the earth. And this is pointing at America now. As days goes on, this is basically finna say Babylon the Great, better known as America, man. You know? Because again, the whole planet Earth flow after you, and also, not only do they flow after you, they basically take on your laws, take on your ways, even take on your democracy, you know? And ultimately, the U.S. being the world police has failed, man. And it took these nations all this long to realize what it is, but the water, Yahweh Shem Yahushai, because biblical prophecy must be fulfilled. And that's why all these things is happening, man. That's why France and the U.S. is bumping heads. That's why it was a such thing as Brexit that happened a couple years ago, man. And people don't even talk about that. You know, the crumbling have been happening, and it's beautiful to see prophecy happening before our eyes. Let's continue on, though. We're finna jump down. This is the book of Revelation 17, because this is a part of the prophecy that's being prepared. It says, in the 10 horns which thou sawest upon the beast, these shall hate the whore. And a part of them hating the whore is the things that she do. Look how Esau Edom is running America. Look how Esau Edom is running the whole planet Earth, and look how everybody is suffering, man. You know, whether it be the kids in Gaza or the people in Taiwan. You know, you can say, well, that's the Chinese. They got something to it. But you can always blame the troubles on the world upon the so-called white man. And the reason why, because he's the ruler of the world right now. If he's not, who is he, man? Who is the only one that can go and bomb somebody and kidnap somebody in the world don't say nothing? You know? And that's why this hatred of America is growing. Especially throughout the years since Trump been in office, man. Now you go into these G7 summits, you know, even on the outside looking in, you can tell it's tense there. You can tell there's beef there, man. Because they know how serious it is. They know about Yahweh Shah coming. They know how, they're in the spirit of desperation, man. You know? That's why they finna get ready to pull these order out of chaos moves. Continuing on though, it says, in the 10 horns which I saw was upon the beast, these shall hate the whore. They're gonna hate America. France already do. Britain do. You know, Spain do. And even though Greenland, you know, Denmark, they do. And even though they don't come out and say it openly, they say it by the way of their actions, man. I mean, this guy, you know, Esau being the devil that the Bible speaks of, he's even evil to his own people. You know, he put tariffs upon these folks and saying, yeah, until y'all give me this, I ain't gonna. That's wicked, man. And that's ultimately why the destruction of America must hurry, because if it don't, no flesh will be saved. This guy, he wouldn't even save his own people, man. That's how greedy and covetous this man is. And that's why he must be taken out by his own people. Continuing on, by his own weapon. It says, these shall hate the whore and shall make her desolate, and shall, it's like, and make her desolate and naked, and shall eat her flesh and burn her with fire. And the way that's going to happen is through these intercontinental ballistic missiles. So yeah, I pray this video was edifying. I want to give all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, by Hashem Yahushua, by Hashem HaKakodash. I want to give that my honor to my apostle, elders, great millstone, and shalom.